Danya-san, this no tournament, this review for real. And this time he's for real. Oh, yeah! What up, guys? Bobo here with BrassReel Brothers. Thanks for joining me for some more popcorn. Well, the story continues with Karate Kid Part 2. Man, I love this movie just as much as the first one. That's one of the things about the Karate Kid. It's actually one of the few franchises out there that all three films hold up. I'm not talking about the next Karate Kid or the remake. Ugh. The only other trilogies I can think of that are like that out there are like Back to the Future, the Indiana Jones trilogy before Crystal Skull, the Dark Knight trilogy, Star Wars, the original trilogy. But that's another video! And I guess the Hilary Swank one is watchable for its own reasons.
Yes! I did it! I did it! Yes!
But for me, it's the Karate Kid 1, 2, and 3. That's it. Oh, and of course, the Cobra Kai series. Anyways, I'm getting off track again. But as a kid, I remember in the theater seeing this one and just being so pumped up and amazed and just being thrown right back into the Karate Kid world that I'd just seen in the first movie. Obviously, it had been 2 years since the movie had come out, so for them to be able to set you right back into it, it was pretty awesome. Picks up right at the end of the tournament with Daniel in the locker room and him and Miyagi talking about their future. Miyagi saying he's gonna retire.
Early retirement.
And we get that awesome scene where Kreese is out in the parking lot just terrorizing Johnny, and Miyagi mutilates his fist into hamburger. And that's the moment we get that classic, another pop culture Karate Kid thing, the nose honk. If you were a kid, as soon as you got out of the theater from seeing Karate Kid Part 2, you were doing that nose honk thing on all your friends. At least I was. They got rid of Elizabeth Shue this time, and they do you a little like quick 20-second synopsis of what happened with her.
She tells me that she's just fallen in love with some football player from UCLA. Why don't you just lie to me?
And at first I was kind of like, man, what about her? I thought they were all happy, but you know what, it was high school. Plus they had to get her out of the way so they could lay the groundwork for the beautiful relationship with the Asian goddess Kumiko. Oh man, I had such a crush on her as a kid. Still do! So the first Karate Kid had the whole coming of age story, the All Valley tournament, all that stuff. The stakes were high if you were a teenager. But the stakes get really high in this one. That's what I love about this. Immediately there's a lot more seriousness added to it. Miyagi gets this letter from Okinawa that his father's sick and he has to go. Well, Daniel-san, being who he is, loving Miyagi so much, he decides to just go with him. And that's great because the first part of the movie, you just feel like it's the first movie again. You feel like it's just a continuation right from the first movie, like it's a part that they left out. And then all of a sudden, before you know it, they get on this plane and he's asking Miyagi all these questions, and it's really cool because as they're getting on the plane, transferring over, it's sort of like the director, John G. Avildsen, which he does this one again. He does all three of them. It's like the scene itself is sort of a portal from America to Okinawa. There's even a moment where the camera shows outside of the window of the plane and you see this sort of sun gleaming through the clouds over the ocean, and it just has this feeling like, all right, we're going to a different place. And I love that. Daniel-san's quickly emerging into manhood. He's not a boy anymore. And Miyagi's the only father figure he ever had, so when Miyagi's down, Daniel-san's there for it. He even says it right before he's getting on the plane. He's like, you were always there for me.
When I need you, you're always there for me.
But like I said, as soon as they get in Okinawa, you get the feeling and the tone that they're going for in this movie. This is the perfect part 2 of a trilogy. I remember when I was seeing Back to the Future Part 2, it was just like, man, this feels like an awesome Part 2. Terminator 2, same thing. Aliens. Man, today I'm just getting off track. It's using the same formula. It's giving us all the stuff we loved about the first movie, more of it. And as Daniel-san's getting introduced to this new world and culture, so is the audience, as far as we're getting introduced to a new type of film, because it's not the same movie as the first one, even though they are using the same tricks and formula, like with the two main villains, Sato and Chozen. Sato's the uncle, which is like John Kreese from the first one, and Chozen is the nephew, which is like Johnny Lawrence from the first one. But these guys are way more badass. They're ready to straight kill you. And what's really funny about the actor that plays Chozen is I know a guy named Jorge, I worked with him for years, who looks just like that guy. I'm talking to the T, even laughs like him. I'm telling you, they look identical, but they do that laugh like that. But even some of the scenes from the first movie, they sort of try to recreate in this one, like when Daniel-san goes to the dojo in the first movie, he does that in this one when he's in Okinawa. Sato's dojo. And the reason I was saying the stakes are higher is because they truly are. Sato is basically Miyagi's brother. They've had this lifelong feud over a woman. A woman! A woman! There's a moment where Shozen and his crew go to Miyagi's family house and farm and they wreck that area. And of course Miyagi whoops them just like he whooped the teenagers in part 1. Oh, Miyagi, you're a badass. But of course the reason they're there is because Miyagi's father's sick, and Miyagi's father dies. Sato's challenging for a fight to the death. And one of the other things they copy and paste from part 1, but to me it's more effective in this one, is when Miyagi's on the beach and he's looking in the sunset after his father died, and Daniel-san's talking to him and putting his arm around him. Let's face it, he's like a father to Daniel-san, and Daniel-san's like a son to him. So that scene is awesome and beautiful. Especially when Miyagi starts crying. Oh, cinema platinum! But how could I talk about Karate Kid Part 2 without talking about beautiful, sweet Kumiko? Man, I had the biggest crush on her as a kid. Especially that scene when she's with Daniel-san and they're drinking the tea. I remember as a kid thinking, man, that's so elegant and respectful, and there's something to that I want to know more about. And then she takes her hair down, and just the music, again, by Bill Conti in this one, does them all 3. But out of all the Karate Kid love interests, I love them all, but Kumiko's hands down my favorite. There's something about that girl. She's just a sweetheart. I love her. And then the gold star of Karate Kid itself, Peter Cetera, the lead singer of Chicago. As cheeseball as that song is, I love every note of it. And as soon as that came out for the rest of my life, and to this day, every time I hear that song, I immediately think of Karate Kid. I am the man who fight. I am not. Shut up! The same with the first movie. Karate is kind of in there, some parts, you know, like Shozen is always terrorizing the village they're in, terrorizing Daniel-san, terrorizing Kumiko, terrorizing them when they go into town and they show up at that bar and those guys are doing the ice slats. Oh, another pop culture thing that everybody loves to talk about in Karate Kid. As soon as you got out of the movie, you were talking to all your friends, and he breaks all this ice, like 6 ice boards. And what's great about that scene is that prior, him and Mr. Miyagi were on this little fishing dock that Miyagi used to have, and he has those swinging hooks. And that's where they do the whole drum technique thing, dodging the hooks, playing with the little drum.
Drum technique.
And just like the first movie, you didn't realize you're learning karate until you start needing it. Using the torque, using the hips. And you got that one guy in there challenging Daniel saying, hey man, you think you can do much better?
What, you think you can do better, Big Mouth?
That guy's hilarious. So we had wax on, wax off in the first movie, or paint the fence. And this one we have drum technique. At least that's how Miyagi says it, drum technique.
Drum technique.
Like I was saying, how the stakes get higher from the first one to this one, boy, they really do. Not only has Shozen threatened to kill Daniel-san multiple times, but they had that huge tsunami scene where Santo's trapped under that big telephone post and Miyagi comes over and and then Daniel-san saved that poor girl up on the bell tower who was trying to help everybody and warn everyone. And all Shozen's just watching.
He's dead. I cannot help him.
What up? One of the things I really like about that storm scene is because Miyagi and Sato were supposed to fight at midnight, and Miyagi always refused to fight. But to save his village, he agreed to fight. And what happens? Bigger powers at work. I feel like that's what the scene was trying to depict a little way. You always do the right thing, and as soon as you truly need the backup and support, it comes in to help you. Because in turn, their feud ends because of him saving him, and now they get to go to the dance together. But not before Shozen swings down in the lights in his scorpion outfit. Man, how awesome would it have been if they would have had, get over here, when he's swinging down the lights. Get over here! I wonder if Mortal Kombat stole that from Karate Kid Part 2. But Shozen just straight up becomes a terrorist. Grabs poor little Kumiko during her sweet dance and holds her at knife point. It's okay though, because Daniel-san, he'll save the day. He's got the drum technique.
Drum technique.
But I remember when he gets over there and he starts fighting, he starts to do the crane kick. I was like, oh yeah, here we go. Oh shit! Not only Shozen, and just like you felt in the first movie at the end of that tournament, you're feeling all that again in this one, except the stakes are even higher this time because you feel like somebody's gonna die if Daniel-san doesn't save the day. And man, when he's doing that whole Man, I remember getting the chills like crazy when I saw that part as a kid. If I was pumped up after seeing the first movie, I was doubly pumped up after seeing this one. And after Daniel's son whoops him, he brings it all back around like we saw at the very beginning with the whole honk thing.
Live or die, man. Die. Wrong. Honk.
Just like Miyagi. Way to go, Daniel-san. Karate Kid Part 2, badass. A+. Just as good as the first one while being a completely different movie. Gives you all the same stuff that you wanted from the first one while digging way deeper into the story and the backstory, the characters, all that stuff. Just makes it that much more rich. A+. Guys, thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Hot Fresh Popcorn, reviewing Karate Kid Part 2. And keep your eyes for Part 3 coming up. Might be my favorite. Look for BrassReel Brothers on Facebook. Look for Bobby Williams on Facebook. You can find me on Twitter, BrassReel Bobby at BrassReel. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button. And if you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button so you can help us make it to the top. And as always, if life gives you lemons, make some hot, fresh popcorn.
Drum technique.